Oh my gosh, guys, I cannot say enough good things about Scream Queens. Like, it is the best show ever, 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 ever. And honestly, it reminds me so much of the Scream franchise of movies, which were my all-time fave because I'm a huge horror movie fan, and all of this makes me so happy. So case in point, we started off the show with a total Red Devil fake out. That is such a move that one of the Scream movies would do. Zayday and Grace were shopping in a store and they thought it was Red Devil that they saw, but it was actually just a guy dressed as Red Devil. And it is worth mentioning here that the Red Devil was, at that time, the mascot for the school. So, you know, it could be that several people dressed like Red Devil and didn't realize that they looked like a crazy serial killer in the process. But anyway, I thought it was really funny. Of course, they attacked this poor guy who was not up to, you know, hurt them. He wasn't going to hurt them. He was not up to no good, I guess. So, Chanel number 2, who is Ariana Grande, her body is missing. So what is up with all the missing bodies? What do you think about that? Could it be that some of these people are actually going to end up being alive, or what? I mean, we know that Boone is alive, but what about the rest of the people? I think that's just really strange, but they're all kind of freaking out, especially Chanel number 1, played by Emma Roberts. It gets a little confusing with all the various Chanels, so what I'm going to try to do is give you their real life name so that you know who I'm talking about, because there's just honestly too many Chanels in this show. So it was beyond hilarious to me that Chanel number 2 / aka Ariana Grande is still posting on her Instagram. Of course, we know it's not her. I actually think that she's dead, but someone is posting pics of her dead body, like lounging by the pool. Oh my gosh, guys, this show just has me LOLing like nonstop. Thumbs up if you are always laughing at the show. And that's what I love about it. And you know what's really funny is I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from you guys that you love this show, but a couple of people have told me that the writing was silly and ridiculous and it was poorly written. But you have to understand that this show is satirical, okay? So it's going to be over the top on purpose, and the characters are over the top on purpose. This is not like CSI, all right? Yes, it is a mystery. Yes, we're trying to figure things out, but it's also a comedy, so you can't take things literally, and you can't be like, oh my god, the writing's awful because this person is just so dramatic. Like Chad Radwell is such a dramatic frat guy. Yes, he's the stereotypical frat guy, the worst of the worst, over the top because that's funny, okay? So the Take Back the Night thing, which is usually a serious kind of walk on campuses, to me was hilarious the way they kind of made it into a joke. And love, love, love the new mascot, Coney, the ice cream cone. How funny was that? So Grace and Zayday decide to go to Bel Air to pay a visit to Chanel number 2's family to figure out, is she really dead or what? I love the Charisma Carpenter cameo. Like I said in my last video, Ryan Murphy loves to bring celebs in just for like 1 or 2 episodes. That's what he loves to do. Charisma has been on a bunch of stuff like probably in the 90s. But anyway, I thought it was cool to see her again. Her parents are totally clueless about her possible, which we know is very possible because it happened, death. They think she's just been drinking again. They're really no help except for one piece of information when they say something about her boyfriend, Chad Radwell. Yes, that Chad Radwell, who's also Emma Roberts' boyfriend, Chanel number 1. And we find out he might be dating some other people too. I love the Chad Radwell character. He is so deliciously evil, so into himself, so over the top. I just love it. And the weird thing to me is that I don't recognize this actor. Do you guys know this person playing this role? I think he is just like completely amazing. If you recognize him from something, let me know down below. But give me a thumbs up if you think he is so funny and so hilarious. He's doing such a great job with that role, and so is Emma with her role. They're just so ridiculously over the top that I love it. So Grace's dad got a part-time job at the college so he can keep a better eye on her. Now, I thought this was a very interesting scene as he showed the class his fave horror movie, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Pretty much this entire episode was wrapped around the idea of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, at least the chainsaw part. I don't think that that was just thrown in there for coincidence. I think there's a reason why he might really like that movie. And I have him, Grace's dad, is one of my top suspects to be Red Devil, and I'll tell you why near the end of this video. So, poor Coney, I mean, he just became the mascot, and he was doing great, and everyone loved him, and then he was murdered and totally split in half by a chainsaw courtesy of Red Devil. I laughed and I cried. So Hester, played by Leah Michele, is pretty obsessed with Chanel #1. And actually, Chanel #1 thinks, you know what, if I make her over and make her a Chanel, then maybe Chad Radwell will love me again and want to be with me. I'm sure that won't work, but hey, Leah Michele looked awesome after her makeover. So Chanel #3, I think it's #3, Earmuffs Girl, she makes a really interesting confession to the girl who's the lesbian. Don't really know her name yet. If you know it, put it down below. Trying to learn all of their names. Anyway, she tells her that Charles Manson is her actual father. Now, he's a notorious serial killer, and I think the show is trying to give us a red herring here, throwing out the fact that perhaps this Chanel is the Red Devil because, well, of course, it's in her DNA. Her dad's a serial killer. In my opinion, anyone who they point out as specifically being a Red Devil, because I believe there's more than one Red Devil, is not Red Devil. But that's just my opinion, because I know kind of how these formulaic horror shows go. Oh, so then we find out that all of the Chanels have dated Chad Radwell. No surprise that he's a notorious cheater. So, like I said, Hester looks amazing after her makeover by Chanel #1, and she even lost the hideous neck brace, but she says she's in like so much pain. Gotta love Leah Michele. She is killing it in this role. So Chad and the Dickie Dollar Scholars, they're so intelligent, guys. They come up with the best idea. They're just going to run out into the streets of their campus and be like, come get us, Red Devil. And Red Devil's going to come out and they're going to like fight him and kill him or whatever. Yeah, that's a really great idea, right? So Pete has tracked down one of the sorority sisters from 1995. So Grace and him decide that they're going to make a 6-hour drive to go find her and ask her some questions. Grace is convinced that Chad is Red Devil. There's way too many signs pointing to Chad, which means obviously Chad could never be Red Devil. If it's too obvious, then it's not going to be that person. So I was on the floor laughing at the Dickie Dollar Scholars Backstreet Boys parody. Oh my gosh, when they were all in white, like I think it was the Millennium album cover. Even Chad Radwell looked like the lead singer of the BSB, Brian Littrell. I mean, his face even looks like him. Seriously, how genius was that? I hope that you guys got that reference because I freaking loved it. But the DDS squad didn't plan on there being 2 Red Devils to show up, and 2 Dickie Dollar Scholars were actually killed. What I found interesting, and what some of you pointed out on my live show that I did earlier today, was that it was convenient that Boone, well, we think Boone might have been one of the Red Devils because Chad Radwell could have easily been killed by one of the Red Devils, but his life was spared, and we know that Boone kind of has a thing for Chad Radwell. So, do you guys think that Boone was one of the Red Devils in this scene? Thumbs up if you think so. So, police officer Denise, she's kind of the smart one here in this show. She thinks she has it all figured out, but I do think she's wrong about this. She thinks that Zayday is one of the Red Devils because Zayday sleeps with a chainsaw under her bed. Now, you got to admit that's really weird and makes totally no sense. But again, too obvious when you straight up point someone out like that. However, she makes the point that there are 2 Red Devils because one of them can be looking all innocent while the other is doing something bad. I want to go a little bit farther and say there may be 3 or 4. If you're a fan of the Scream franchise of movies, you'll know that there was a huge shocker in the very first Scream movie when 2 killers were revealed. That was something that never usually happens in horror movies. I totally think Scream Queens has taken inspiration from that franchise of movies, and I definitely think there's at least 2 Red Devils. I think they're actually going to go with more, but we will see. Gotta love the shout out to my other fave show this season, How to Get Away with Murder. I cannot believe these 2 shows came together in one moment because Zayday was tweeting about the show in the show. How freaking awesome was that? Thumbs up if you're a fan of both shows. Loved it. If you're a fan of that show, I am doing videos on it as well, so you want to subscribe so you don't miss these videos. Oh my gosh. So, near the end of the episode, Gigi totally almost gets the axe, or should I say chainsaw, from Red Devil while she's now moved into the sorority house. Now, conveniently, Grace's dad was outside in his car. He's able to come in and kind of save her. Now, I will point out something very important that happens in this scene. Red Devil has the chance to murder Grace's dad, but he just grazes his arm. Now, a lot of you would say, okay, well, obviously Grace's dad cannot be Red Devil because the Red Devil hurt him. Absolutely not. It's the least likely person who I think will end up being part of the Red Devil team, or being Red Devil if there's just one. And he's one of my main suspects because we have no reason to suspect him. Plus, he was actually hurt by one of the Red Devils, making it so unlikely that he could be, which means that he is. Anyway, I thought that was really interesting, and what I also thought was interesting is that both of these people blamed the dean, who was upstairs, who kind of missed all this. They don't understand how she missed it. They automatically think she's Red Devil. No way. Way too easy. So, my top 3 suspects at this point are Grace's dad, Gigi, because we all know that Gigi was most likely one of those sorority sisters from 1995. Not quite sure which one yet, but possibly the one that walked downstairs with the blood on her hands that was helping her friend who had just given birth. She's very suspect. I don't know why she's come back into the picture. And she may be someone who's just pretending to be all nice, but she's out seeking revenge. My number 1 suspect is actually Grace. Why? Because we think she's a nice girl who's trying to solve the mysteries of this show, who would never, ever, ever have a reason to be evil, which is exactly why she probably is the main villain, because it's always the least likely. Now, if this show starts pointing the finger at every single person in the cast, I might change my mind. But what I think they will do is point the finger at everyone except the people who will end up being the villains. What do you guys think about that? I would love to hear your feedback below. So just so you know, I got such great feedback on my last video that I've started to do live shows on Scream Queens. They will be every Wednesday right here on my channel at 6 p.m. Eastern. So I definitely hope you join us next week if you missed it this week. And I will be covering all the episodes of Scream Queens. Please subscribe and hit the like button if you are enjoying this show and these videos. As always, thank you so much for watching this episode of Kellie TV. I'll see you next time.